of the PDM, the president of and the official leader of the opposition, who's joining us from his farm, where he will also be talking to us and reminiscing about the former president. Oh, okay. We understand that McHenry Venaani will be joining us slightly later on. But as we just saw those pictures of the president at the residence of the founding president, where he will be conferring with the Nujoma family in terms of the period of mourning. And obviously, we will wait for the president to make an announcement to the nation a bit later in terms of the formality of this period. But earlier on, he announced the passing of the founding president to the world and to Namibians in particular, describing the late president as a stalwart of the liberation struggle. We will continue with more interviews as we invite guests to our studios to reflect on the life and times of our founding president, a figure that has been ever present in our lives for the past how many years? I mean, it has been a formidable period through which the founding president led us during the liberation struggle in the late 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, until we gained our independence in 1990. He was there in the formative period of our nationhood, serving as president for 15 years, and then as an elder statesman, guiding from the shadows and from behind the scenes, really, to ensure that that baton is taken over by other leaders that have continued to lead us in the post-independence period. So we will be reflecting on the life and times of this legendary figure through that prism of the liberation struggle as the last remaining African leader who led his nation to nationhood, to freedom. We are now delighted, as I stated, by none other than Honorable McHenry Venaani, the official leader of the opposition, who will be reminiscing on the life and times of the founding president. Honorable McHenry Venaani, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear. You had the opportunity to serve with the president as a parliamentarian when, as we know, during his last 5 years as president of the nation. What do you remember about him?
Well, President Sam Nujoma is a man who has greatly used all his energy, wits, and courage to fight for our freedom and independence. Nujoma was a figure both in our heads, while young students would hear his name. We would hear the South African regime putting up propaganda posters that he's a wolf, he's not a human being. He was demonized by the regimes that was in the country because of his stoic support. I remember Nujoma when he arrived in Namibia in 1989, myself, Kawandenge, with at St. Barnabas pre-primary school, and that day, SWAPO for the first time shook Windhoek with the arrival of Sam Nujoma, and we started asking questions whether Nujoma was really a wolf or a human being. Of course, we knew then he was a human being because of his arrival in the country. Then he went and stayed in Wanaheda, right there. He went right in Karatura to stay there. And of course, with youngsters, we used to ride bikes. And for the first time, we saw a man riding in motorcades. The first leader in the country that had a motorcade. The first diesel motorcade of, I think, 3 black Mercedes-Benzes and a beige bulletproof car. Those are the times of 89. Later years, I remember Nujoma as a decision maker in the formative stages of our country. Nujoma was a leader who would take difficult decisions in difficult moments. And if there is something I have learned and copied from him, young politicians, is to take decisions. Nujoma can take a decision. He would fire a minister abruptly. He doesn't want something, he would take a decision. What I only remember of him was Nujoma was not a very warm personality. He's not your typical President Mahamba style of leadership, or Hage who would give hugs to adversaries. No, Nujoma was a very cold personality as a human being. But this one day, during a state banquet for diplomats, I became, that's a time 10 years ago that I became a leader of opposition, and I defeated RTP as the official opposition. And Nujoma walks to me and he said, "Hey, Comrade Venaani," Nujoma calling me comrade, and he gave me a hug. "You did so well." So we were laughing about it. And I went and told the Hage gang of, "Hey, the big man gave me a hug. He's happy you defeated the RDP. That's why he gave you a hug." We were laughing about it. So that's the first time that I got a warm hug with President Nujoma. I'm reminiscing a time when we went to bury Nelson Mandela. I asked President Pohamba to give me a lift to the funeral. And Pohamba says, in his words, "Venaani, I'll give you a lift, but one day when you become president, you must also remember that I gave you a lift. Even to other SWAPO leaders, you must give them a lift." So we joked about it. So Pohamba was very deliberate. He let me sit just behind Nujoma, when now President Nangolo Mbobai was SD of SWAPO, Angola, and many other people that went to South Africa. So at the lobby, we were supposed to land at the Waterkloof base, as the heads of state were landing there for the funeral, but there was a congestion of too many heads of state that arrived. So we had to land at Oliver Tambo Airport. So when we landed at Oliver Tambo, I and him went to the bathroom, and coming out of the bathroom, President Nujoma had a hat, a particular hat that he used to wear, but he put the hat the wrong way. So I just took liberty and said, "Oh, Dr. Nujoma, you are an old gentleman of old occasion. Even if the people used to call you a terrorist, you can't put your hat like that." So I went and started and I fixed his hat. And I saw the warmth of the man. And he said, "No, you're a very good politician. And the way you talk to elders, you know how to communicate." So I was getting all this adoration from him. And Elia Gurare must live to tell this story. Elia Gurare was also with us during that delegation. And I think Hamid Karzai of Afghanistan walked towards our delegation because there were so many VIP leaders. So he walked and he greeted me. So Nujoma probably thought Ahmed Karzai knew me because I didn't know him. I just greeted him because he was just passing, and I stood up and greeted him. And Nujoma tells Gurare, and of all the politicians in this country, this guy is a dangerous politician. So Gurare came to me and told me, "You know what the old man says? He must say, he's telling us that we must guard you. You are a dangerous politician." I remember the first one-on-one meeting. President Hage Geingob would have lived to tell his story. I asked him that I wanted to meet Nujoma in 2004, one-on-one, on an interview that I wanted to conduct with him, but I'm so afraid that is he unapproachable? Is he? So I went to Sitendero. Sitendero said, "No, Nujoma, it's a very serious guy, but he's very approachable." So I went to Hage, and Hage was not giving him, "No, he knows about you. Don't think he doesn't know you. He knows you. He knows that," because that period, both of them didn't have a very cold, they had a very cold relationship because of the firing of Hage. But Hage engineered with State House for me to go and meet Nujoma. So when I walked in and started to do the recordings, because I was interviewing him about the lives and times of Kapoor, and my recorder was not working properly, and I was shaking. So when he walks into the room, "Young Venaani, how are you? You're a good patriot, da-da-da-da." And then my recorder was not working, so I was trying to fix it. And Nujoma says, "When you come to people like us, you must come prepared." And I was shaking. And then after that, he just said, no, let's talk about the lives of Kapoor. Very interesting one-on-one. And he was so much interested in, wanting to hear my views about the country, this, that, and the other. And that's the first encounter. The second encounter is that the Namibian troops came back from the DRC, but I was a very strong voice as the Secretary General of my party on the participation of Namibia troops in the DRC. So Nujoma never forgot that I was fighting him vehemently in the DRC. So he asked Penani Shitendero, our speaker, to bring me along to a parliamentary delegation that was going to State House. So I was asking the speaker, "Why must I go here now? the old men also want to come and see you. So that day when we walk into the State House, we're talking about our matters, and he says, "Young Venaani, in fact, I wanted to see you." I said, why didn't you invite me? He said, no. You are one of the reasons why you're here. I just wanted to tell you that you must be an Africanist. I like your politics. You're a great politician, but are you a Pan-Africanist? So I was lectured that day about Pan-Africanism, But Nujoma was our leader. We had to respect him. He brought freedom to our country. He played a pivotal role at the role of state formation, creating institutions of our country. The biggest low of his career probably was the third term. In our view, from the opposition, that I think it was unnecessary for him to demand a third term. He fought the third term very vehemently, but of course he got in his way. But you had to admire the man. The man was a doyen of the country's statehood. He had a great extent in terms of bringing our independence, and we fondly remember him. What I can say is that the greatest light of our country has been with them. And the deepest point of our nation's sphere has become very dumb. And I think we have lost a great man who has done all for the people of his country and his nation. And we should celebrate a life well lived of a man who has walked through the epochs of time to bring about freedom to our people. An adversary of note, a leader that was political every day. Nujoma was a swap encyclopedia. He would tell you in historical events, in conflict, in a very encyclopedia manner on this day, this is what happened. Even during his old age, if you ask him, the decision that Swap to get a central committee of the history, he would say, Venaani, the reason why we could do this is because of this APCP. He knew the history of his party very well. And he was a man who knew the country very well and the history of the country very well. He had great respect for Chief Kapoor, he had great respect for Chief Osaka, and he spoke very fondly of them and their contribution to the struggle of this country. And he was a man in a class of his own. He is unparalleled. There is no politician that you can compare with Nujoma. He had aura, he had charisma, he had ability to navigate difficult terrains, and was respected here at home and further afield. And for that we say, may his beautiful soul fly with the angels. We fondly remember a leader who stood for his people and country.
Excellent. Honorable Venaani, maybe just on the aspect of national reconciliation, because he was a champion for national reconciliation at the onset of the post-independence period. And as we know, warring factions, warring parties were now able to see eye to eye. When you talk about the formation of the security cluster, for instance, where people that were erstwhile enemies now became a part of a cohesive unit, a cohesive structure after that independent period, would you say that is one of his legacies that is worth admiring?
I would say it was a great attempt. I mean, the word national reconciliation was ushered by Nujoma when he addressed the swap. The first time that I heard the word, it was in 1989 during the election campaign at the then Independence Stadium. It was called the Tatanban, or what was it called then. That's when we heard the word national reconciliation. We were wondering what is the meaning, right? Because we're young people now. With national reconciliation, there was a great attempt from Nujoma, but I don't think it is his biggest achievement. I think his biggest achievement, his real legacy, is ushering freedom and justice to this country. With the national reconciliation, the attempts were very strong to bring about warring factions together, state formation, difficult period, but it is not really taken hold and taken root as we anticipated, but it is not his biggest achievement in my view. His biggest achievement, Nujoma's name would be written in gold in the hallmarks of our country's history as bringing freedom, independence to this country.
But wouldn't you say that even in the post-independence period, the multi-party democracy system that we have is partly due to those roots, those ideals that they championed as the founding Republican fathers and mothers?
Well, I think that there he played a great role. There he played a great role at bringing parties together. But of course, every leader plays a particular role at a particular time. I think I would give that role much more greater to Hage Geingob in terms of multi-partyism, bringing parties together, negotiating instructions. Of course, it was under instruction of Nujoma, but the Hage Gobe is a figure, the Constituent Assembly figure would take a greater legacy of bringing the parties and sophisticated democracy. But Nujoma can be remembered bigger than anything else, unparalleled with bringing us freedom in this country, state formation.
Excellent. So as we enter into what is likely to be a period of mourning, what would you think, or what would you say to Namibians out there in terms of this period and your expectations in terms of how we need to come together as Namibians to mourn such a heroic figure, but also at the same time celebrate his legacy?
As a country, we need to leave our differences aside and stand together in unison, but standing at attention and honoring a man who has given it all for all of us to be in a country that we can call Namibia. A lot of actors played that role, but he led the role. And because he championed that role, the people of this country must stand together in unison. We stand together to a patriot, someone who brought statehood to nations with our daughters. But we must be children of one country without looking at tribes. And as Namibians, children of one house, we must show the world that we can, even in our biggest hours of challenges, electoral calls, what we have against each other, our country must stand in unison in giving attention, standing at attention, and honoring a man who has stoically sacrificed for his people's country. Stand together, Namibians, and let's honor our hero who has done well for our country.
Thank you so much, Honorable Venaani, for taking the time to talk to us this afternoon to reminisce on the life and times of our founding president.
Thank you very much.
As we have pointed out, the SWAPO Party Vice President and Vice President of the Republic and President-elect Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah has also extended her condolences to the Namibian nation. She wrote on her social media pages that with profound sorrow, I extend condolences to Namibia on the passing of our beloved founding president. His visionary leadership, dedication to liberation and national building laid the foundation for a free and united nation. Let us honor his legacy by upholding resilience, solidarity, and selfless service. Our thoughts are with his family and the grieving nation. She wrote that on her social media pages, but also took the time to visit the family. The first national leader to do so earlier this morning. We saw her accompanied by Lieutenant General retired Epaphras Denga-Ndaitwah earlier on this morning as they visited the Nujoma residence, accompanied by the Deputy Minister of Veteran Affairs, as well as Madam Eunice Pinge. We have also seen the President also making his way to the residence as well, and we saw those pictures that we showed you a bit earlier on. Our former First Lady, the third First Lady, Madam Monica Genkos, also paying tribute on her social media pages. She has put out a statement in which she said, Tatekulu symbolized who we are as a land of the brave. I always reflected on the privilege of being alive as someone, being alive at the same time